I'm Jason Klamm, and this is the Comedy on Vinyl podcast. The year's 1960. The album is The Button-Down Mind of Bob Newhart. The artist, obviously, is Bob Newhart. My guest is Karen Rontowski. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, okay, so, and I did the right thing. I didn't say thanks for being here, because we're here at your place. Thank you for hosting with your adorable dog and letting me give treats to your dog.
Good, and hopefully no fire engines, but I have a lot of them. So.
Oh, do you really? Okay, so why did you pick this album?
You know, when I was a kid, there were like 4 or 5. I mean, obviously all the Bill Cosby albums I loved, and these were really my parents' albums. Uh-huh. But this one really spoke to me, and I really think it was Bob's demeanor and the brilliance of the one-way conversation. But I really liked his topics, and I felt like it's very interesting, even as a kid, even not having that much knowledge about comedy, that his pauses were, like, I remember them. I remember waiting for the punchline because of the way he delivered his jokes. And and we actually used to, the Bob Newhart show was on at the time that I was actually listening to them. So that would be, let's see, I was born in 65, so, and you just said the album was 1960?
Yeah, this album was 60, so and the show came out, 70? I want to say 73, maybe?
Would it be 73? So I would be like, that sounds about right.
Okay.
So I was already a huge fan, but I really think, even now, I'm a fairly clean act. I'm kind of, I call myself Fluff. Uh-huh. So I think I always liked Fluff. He's kind of Fluff, but I really, in fact, I went back and listened to it again. And I was fascinated at, it's just a time thing, but one of his intros was about a driving instructor that has the worst possible, what is that called, circumstances, and he goes, a woman driver.
I know. It's like, oh God, yeah, okay. But you know what's great is that's like the worst of anything he's ever done.
I know, and in those days, that was the joke.
It was tame. Yeah, it was tame. I mean, if you took woman driver out of it and just said bad driver, it's a great sketch. It's a great sketch. But I do wonder if he still does it. I don't know if he does or not. I'm not sure. Have you seen him live? Have you ever seen him live?
I haven't, but my parents saw him live a couple years ago.
Really?
And everything that I've read about him, he has not missed a beat. He is still really sharp on it, which is amazing to me that his best friend is Don Rickles.
I know.
That is the oddest combination.
It's so great. It makes it. Well, I mean, I'm sure you're friends with some, foul-mouthed comics too.
Yeah, that's true.
It's
that's
fun,
true.
right?
But my best friend's a lot like me.
Yeah. Okay. I can understand that. But what's funny is to use the term fluff. I mean, but he can also get. It's not like you can be fluff, but also be super dark.
Oh yeah. Well, and I don't even realize that I'm dark because. I do paranormal investigation and ghost hunting, and I match it with, and read tarot cards, and I match it with comedy, and I work at paranormal conventions, and sometimes I forget that, Ouija boards or talking about people who are dead or joking about death is dark. Sure. I forget that. Yeah. So I guess you could say, even being Fluff, I'm dark, but I'm, usually not hurting anyone.
Right. Is your instinct are you assuming that people assume when you talk about that stuff that it's fringe, or that they think you're being weird? What is the reaction you're expecting to get when you talk about that stuff?
Well, there's a big chunk of it that I can make mainstream. Okay. And it's pretty, and it's all pretty simple. I mean, you don't have to laugh at this joke, but it's things like, ghosts are just energy. They used to be able to turn TVs on and off all the time, but now they just stand around the 3 remotes going, I don't know which one it is. Or, you know what I mean?
No, it's great. Yeah.
Bringing it down to a level that it's not, you don't have to be a paranormal investigator to get it, or just a ghost story or stuff. So what I have to learn is, it took me a long time to actually get my Ouija board jokes I had to get it so, those have to be so almost light and simple so they don't have to think. So I think that I'm very careful with that material.
Yeah, I bet. Well, I mean, you could run into judgmental people.
Yeah.
You run into people who maybe are laughing. Not maybe, definitely laughing for the wrong reasons. Like, but you're fully aware of it.
Exactly.
I do like, though, that to be a it's not typical of a comedian. Most comedians, I think, are so cynical.
Yeah.
To be as interested as you are and convicted as you are, there's something to be admired about that. For you, what is the joy of finding humor in something that's that close to you and maybe that important to you? Because it's not always easy to laugh at the stuff you enjoy.
That's true, or it can be too close. Like you can miss a joke. In fact, I'll use the Ouija board as a real. It is an instant because I don't use Ouija boards, and I don't suggest anyone uses them.
Yeah.
So I was coming at them from a bigger place and a place of fear when I finally got it, and I just lowered it down, and it was that, and it's awful. It sounds awful. Someone said that a Ouija board will scream when you burn it, and I said, well, that's only true if you light it on fire while it's still in your friend's lap. But I was too close to it, and actually there's a long story that I do that I'm getting ready to release in a video that is about a very negative dark spirit attachment that I had. That was that's kind of that is the one more so where I can do it in front of crowds, and sometimes they're laughing hysterically, and sometimes they're just like, I did it in front of a crowd where they laughed hysterically, and then they were just like, "You're crazy."
Oh,
like, well, that's all right as long as you laughed.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, I suppose so. I mean, that is the interesting. Is there a part of you that's like, the comedian part of me will take the laugh and the rest of me will take the rest of it home? Or do you, how do you bifurcate these things? I'm curious.
Well, it's funny because there seems to be a line that aggravates me and I'm not even that positive what the line is. But once, because I also read tarot cards as a job, but once I was on a podcast and it was just debating whether there is afterlife or something like that. Okay. And I don't even think I was on there 5 minutes before someone called me a fraud.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And I was like, I wasn't even reading cards. I was just, actually just stating medical facts. And that really rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah.
That was ridiculous. And then somebody else did a podcast once, and I don't even know that he realized it, but in the beginning he said, well, I don't believe anything she said, but it's an enjoyable podcast.
Oh my God.
Somebody from the paranormal communities, they started to go, what was that about? And I think he cut it off. But it was actually from probably one of the nicest guys that didn't even realize,
sure. Yeah.
So even I'm like, but if you're going to laugh with me, or like on Bob and Tom, they don't believe at all, but they'll go with the joke and they'll ask questions. So as long as someone treats me with somewhat respect, I'm good with it. So.
Yeah, I know, and I can understand that. I mean, if you know that you're facing this, if you're going to face like that kind of dismissiveness immediately,
right?
What else are you going to do? B, I guess you should be. I don't know. Like, God, that's rough. Like, I can't imagine, because it's one of the things you always talk about with stand-ups is perspective and point of view, and like when you've got a point of view that is, again, like most people would consider fringe or don't understand, like that's its own thing altogether.
Which is funny because you are a brilliant interviewer, because you just turned my fluff into something very important, and now I'm like, whoa, I'm not even who I thought I was. Because I think, I don't do political stuff. Yeah. I don't want the fight. And sometimes I put the jokes on Facebook, and then I try to, just not. I don't really want confrontation, and I am a positive thinker. But usually, like I said, I can tone it down somewhat. But all the things I want to do have to do with the paranormal, the TV shows that I pitch, the podcast and everything, which is very interesting because you do have to get a thick skin. I know I don't watch the Long Island Medium that much, but I know she's unbelievably popular.
Right.
And there's a guy that just writes books against her. That's his whole thing.
Wow.
One after the other about how she's a fraud. Like, he is just hating her. And I think, exactly, like, that much hate must really be, I don't know, but I guess if I'm going to keep doing paranormal, I might learn to set that up. But yeah, it is weird.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, there is a bonus, I think, maybe, and I could be completely wrong, so I'm not in your shoes, but the idea that, let's say, that was actually going to be my next question, like how many people come to you pitching this idea of a show, but you're already doing it yourself. Like, I'm sure you've got a million variations on it, but like, I feel like that's at least your angle. I mean, not that you're necessarily hiding behind the comedy, but you have it. There would be more value to it other than, like, if you're doing a show, like, yes, there's a paranormal thing, but like I myself, I would be watching it to see how funny you make it. You know, so at the very least, there are two things there, and it doesn't. again, it's one thing if you're, what's his name, John, I can't remember his name, but the guy who says he can talk to the dead.
John Edwards,
Yes, that guy. Whether he can or not, he's not funny and not interesting. So at the very least, there's 100% I'm not interested in. There'll at least be 50% where I'd at least try and watch somebody be funny, even about something they like.
Well, there's an interesting thing to that, which is I do a show called Psychic Stand-Up once a month, where comics come on, they do their set, then they ask me a question, and I read tarot cards.
Awesome. Okay.
And I have another show that I do with my friend Lamont Ferguson, where he takes questions from the crowd, and I read after an hour of stand-up. And I do really read, but I do really make it funny.
Sure.
And so we make it because I love all the ghost shows and all the paranormal shows, but if you get I feel like things become mainstream through comedy. There's sort of a little cult thing of the paranormal, and then I think when it's ready to go mainstream, it'll come through me or through a comic, and I can present all these things funny. I know funny ghost hunting. I know when you're doing the history of a place, I know how to make that funny. Plus, I'm just goofy, so that enhances the whole thing. But that's my whole idea, is that it could go mainstream from the people that just want to see, what is she doing? What, she's ridiculous. What is she?
Right.
In fact, I'm starting a little web series called Paranormal Karen. And, it's like, if I get to go to the Mothman Festival, you would be like, what's the Mothman Festival? And I would have tears because I'm so happy to be there. Because it's my favorite cryptozoological creature,
That's awesome. Okay.
So that's what I'm hoping. Plus, there's a big, now you got me chatting. I can't shut up about the
I
New Age.
derailed us, don't worry.
There's a big New Age movement coming now. Like, it's literally, the world is changing, and these things are going to become way more. There's a thing called indigo children. They're children that are much more advanced than the rest of us, and you might find parents that don't understand their kids really see ghosts or really are talking about the future, and they're right, and there are more of them, and they're very confused. That's where we're getting a lot of autism or ADD, or people aren't understanding because there are these higher spirits that are coming to the world. See, now you can make fun of me right now.
I could, but why would I? I mean, you're telling me something you're interested in. I have no interest in making fun of it. I make fun of anything.
Well, I think a lot of them are being misdiagnosed, and people don't know what to do with them. But if there's Goofy Karen on the TV and it's brought through humor, I think it lessens it. So hopefully someday that's what I'll do. But you will see more New Agey stuff happening, and I believe UFO stuff is going to start. The lid's going to start to come off that, and it's just a transition that's happening.
Yeah. So. I'm trying to figure out a smooth way to get us back to Bob Newhart.
I know.
I derailed us completely. I do this every time, though. Don't, like, I get so involved in my guest's work that it's just like, so, okay, you first hear Bob Newhart, let's say, around when you're 13.
Okay.
Is that ish?
I would say, 10. 10 would be
okay. So, but it's your parents' album.
Yep.
What was their taste? What was comedy's presence in your house like?
Well, my house was very, very funny, but it was also terrifying at the same time. So maybe that was one or the other. But I think that I learned, as probably most comics did, to break the tension through laughter. Yeah. I think if you ever had a movie that could show how someone would become a comic, you'd have two kids, drunk father, which was not my father, throwing things around, breaking them, and in a tense moment, one kid looks at the other and says, I never liked that lamp. And just in that second, learning that you can that's all you can do with a moment, I think that's where comics are born. So I learned to be funny there, and then when I don't even remember, we weren't allowed to watch TV as a kid. Okay. So I vaguely remember when people talk about TV, so I didn't really see Carol Burnett. I remember a little Mary Tyler Moore. Laverne and Shirley got shut off as soon as someone said Vodio Dodo. I know. And I can't remember what else. So when I heard these albums, especially Bob Newhart, I was like, what are these? Where is this that people are just laughing and listening, and how does this happen? And so I think I was pretty fascinated by it, and also just how smart that people seemed, especially Bob Newhart. He's so smart, and it just comes through. Yeah. And this timid person was like in control of all these laughs, you know? It was just great.
Oh, it's so wonderful. Now I do wonder, this is something we don't bring up that often because I don't make it a point to just, hey, you're a woman, let's talk about being a woman. But I am interested, I mean, how much stand-up by women were you exposed to at all as a kid?
Probably none. That's probably why I didn't really think it was a job.
Yeah.
I knew a little, which is funny because later in life I became introduced to Gracie Allen, who is my all-time favorite.
Yeah.
Who does not get somebody should be making movies about her. She was just fabulous. So she sort of became my icon because I don't know any albums or anything like that. I think I had a Bette Midler tape once, but I don't, other than people would talk about Phyllis Diller.
Yeah.
And I don't remember a Phyllis Diller album. Nobody had that.
Mm-hmm.
And people always talked about Carol Burnett, and I know everyone's going to murder me, but Carol Burnett felt sad to me.
No, hey, she was a lady of the theater. That's 100% accurate. I totally get what you're saying.
But you know who I wanted to be? Mm-hmm. I wanted to be Rhoda.
Really?
I thought Rhoda was funny. I thought that she was single. She was
great.
I mean?
She was great.
She wore the headband I wanted to wear. And she just came in and got the laugh and left, you know?
Yeah.
Which on Mary Tyler Moore. But yeah, I don't remember that many. In fact, one of the first, I guess I must have seen some on TV, but I remember in college I was watching a TV show out of Boston and Karen Haber was on it. And I think she may have actually not only been the first introduction to it, but the first kind of place where I went, oh, that's a job. That's a job. She has that job, you know? Yeah.
Gosh. Yeah, see, I mean, I'm trying to think, like, again, I don't do stand-up, but it was so easy for me to listen to a thing that, oh, I could do that. Oh, I could do that. Because I've got all these, again, not that we necessarily as kids think of it in terms of, oh, this is a male voice, I could do that, but I can't relate to not hearing a male voice ever, you know. So it's one of these things where it's like you don't feel excluded, but you don't realize you can be included.
Right.
And I mean, so were you up to that point?
That's a brilliant statement. That's a brilliant statement about everything.
Well,
yes. Say it again.
I don't remember it because I'm mentally ill.
You haven't been excluded, but you
don't realize you can be included.
You can be included,
right?
Oh.
You know, because it's one is active and one is passive, and that can do so much more damage, you know?
Right.
So when do you know that you're funny enough that this can be a thing for you? Is it that, seeing that? I'm sorry, her name again, I apologize.
Gracie?
Yeah, no, well, actually, how early did you discover Gracie Allen? That's interesting.
Actually, much later. I think it was in my 20s or late 20s, and I used to get that's when they started to sell old-timey, you know, because I remember my parents had mentioned Fanny Bryce. Mm-hmm. Also, I did tell jokes at a church cover dish supper at one point, and that was when Steve Martin's era.
Awesome.
But they're really, you know, I don't even know who was out at that time for females.
Lily Tomlin, but she was doing her own thing.
Right. She was not necessarily a stand... Well, she was a stand-up, but she was...
There were shows,
I know.
You know?
She was great.
Yeah.
She's still great now.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, some of her stuff gets played. I think I've heard it. And it's so brilliant. And I kind of wish it had been in that category. Who else? You know what's funny? I remember more so than female comics is males imitating women.
Really?
Like Milton Berle
or...
You know, even the Hudson Brothers show kind of had that. But, there weren't too many. And plus, not being TV-oriented, you know, Roseanne kind of was when I started to see it. But, I know sometimes people think, like, Marilyn Monroe was funny in those movies, which she must have been. But it is interesting who's a stand-up. In fact, somebody told me the funniest story about how I met Phyllis Diller once.
Really?
And she was the nicest lady, and she was so... I opened it at the Bob Hope Young Comedian Special years ago. I was the opening act, the warm-up. And I met her, and she was so sharp. She was not missing a beat.
Awesome.
And somebody told me how they went to her house, and they were looking at all the pictures on the wall. She had all these celebrity pictures.
Oh, my God.
And somebody points and goes, hey, is that Lucille Ball? And without missing a beat, Phyllis Diller goes, you know, she never did stand-up. And I thought that's how we are. Like, I'm so, like... People say Carol Burnett, and I'm always like, not really stand-up.
You're right.
Yeah.
No, I get being possessive of it. It makes it like I would never, ever, you know, pretend that I'm involved in the world, even though most of my interviewees are stand-ups.
Right.
You know, it's hard because I call myself a comedian, but I never call myself a comic.
Oh.
You know, like I you know, but it's... God, yeah, that's interesting. I not just met, but performed in the vicinity of Phyllis Diller. That's mind-blowing to me.
Oh, God, and she looked fantastic.
Yeah.
She really looked good. I can't wait till I can have money to get all that plastic surgery, because she looked great.
Do you have, this is a weird question, because is there something on the button-down mind that stands out as a favorite bit? That's not the weird question. I have another weird question as a follow-up.
I really liked the driving instructor. Mm-hmm. The one about Khrushchev getting off the plane, that was very good. But let me think real quick, because it's not, the driving instructor really stays with you the best. The other one that's fascinating is when he talks about baseball, where it's literally telling a guy how the game is played, and we all know exactly how it's played, and how that's still funny, just from the other perspective. Like, that's brilliant.
I know.
That's brilliant. You know what else surprised me, because I went back and listened to it again about a month ago, is it's very short.
Yes, I know.
These are not long at all. I think it was 20 minutes. God, that'd be great if you could do a headline set, just 20 minutes and go home.
And his first performance is live. That's the mind-blowing part to me. Nobody should be that good.
I know. And it holds up today. Like, there's a lot of stuff I listen to, or TV shows that I watch, that do not hold up today. It all holds up today. He really knew. I don't know. He's, I guess, just brilliant is the only word to use there.
Most of it's not too time specific, except for Khrushchev, but like the rest of it, I think we all, at least the tropes are there. We understand the stuff that's super American about, like, baseball. That's easy to, still relatable. Even if you don't even care that much about baseball, like, you still get it, and you get how silly it sounds when somebody describes it.
And you know what else I like? Like, everybody does relationship humor, and I do too. But he doesn't really do it, or he doesn't do it from either my wife is so fat, or I don't, you know what I mean? I've never heard him do relationship humor. Maybe I've heard him tell jokes in interviews about his wife. But I always kind of appreciate that, because I do always like people that are outside the box. Like, I try to go outside the box a lot, and that was just how he was. He was doing things other people weren't.
I know. Whenever I've heard him, like later on, there's an album called Bob Newhart. I'm going to get it wrong. Is it Bob Newhart on Bob Newhart on Bob Newhart? I think is the name of it. Like, the most he even talks about on there is he mentions the birth of his son, but it's all about how he's outside the waiting room and dealing with all this shit and doesn't know. He's always not the victim, but he's always the butt of the joke. You know, so again, except for in the case maybe of the woman driver. My weird question was going to be: do you have a favorite subject matter to hear somebody joke about or make jokes about yourself, like relationships or blah blah blah, or that? Again, I don't know. Is there one, or is it just style, or is it just? It's a weird question. I've never asked it before, and I might not ever ask it again because I feel stupid. But I'm just wondering.
Well, you know what? I kind of like anything that. Another one of my favorite bits is by A. Whitney Brown, and it's called Metaphors, and it's just a long story, and it winds itself around at the end, and it's not even true. Okay, or it's it's so far off in La La Land but the writing is so brilliant, and I often think that I don't know if I have a particular favorite topic, but especially when I see open micers and stuff, and I see somebody grab at something that is not single or. We'll all have that 4 or 5 minutes of that.
Sure.
But when somebody goes further, when somebody is talking about dinosaurs or something, you know what I mean? Something where you go, wow, where did that come from?
Yeah, thank you, Dan Telfer.
Or they're not angry.
Yeah.
Because I try to do more positive. I try to be like, I'm stupid, but it's positive kind of thing. But that I really like a lot. So anytime it's sort of the switch, or I'm trying to think what's a great topic somebody grabbed that even with the paranormal, at least that's out of the but it's very interesting, because we as comics love to see somebody grabbing outside of the box, but the audience is just as happy with sex, wife, no money.
Right.
You know, that's they're just they don't judge hack or not hack or heard it before. It's just you know. So it's really interesting when someone is that far out. There's a guy named Tamer Katan.
Okay.
That's he's Middle Eastern, and he's from Egypt, and he is just brilliant, and he approaches very scary, you know, topics that would be scary today, and he just goes head in, and I love that because he's talking about politics, and he's talking about it from the point of someone from the Middle East and how everything is crazy now. So, like, to me, he's incredibly brave. I would never do that.
Right.
And then on the other hand, there's a guy named Brian Kiley who's the greatest writer ever. Ever. And I can watch him do anything. So I guess I'm contradicting myself. But like, if he does marriage jokes, I love them because they're crafted so well. So I don't know. Maybe that is a weird topic. Yeah,
it was a weird question. Don't worry about it. But I think we got somewhere with it, so that was good.
Yeah.
But what's funny though is like there's this thing about Bob Newhart where he's taken for granted as like he's this guy. He's this elder statesman of comedy. You know, and this is just how comedy goes. And so the fun thing to me is to look back on it and, like you say, just either find out that it still holds up, or I mean, is there anything about him that influences you directly that you can notice?
Well, first of all, I would say his ego is in place, which ego is where, you know, you have to know where you stand.
Sure.
And in his shows, he was the oddball because everyone else was so nuts. Yeah. Like, that was the beauty of that he was the most downplayed character among all these crazy, you know what I mean? Like, that to me, number one, was great. But number two, I once heard him say the final episode of the second series that everybody couldn't get over, he will go, I believe he said, I was either his wife, I think it was his wife that said, you know, you should just make it all a dream. Or and it, like, he totally gave her credit. Yeah. Like, that was, you know, like, he just knew. But I love that he is so underplayed. He underplays himself. Yeah. So, yeah.
Which is weird, too, because, I mean, if you think about it, the person on the other end of the phone in these sketches is the straight man. You know? Like, whereas if they did the sketch together, I don't know how it would play, but definitely since you can't hear them, like, you have to picture, you know, you're getting nothing off of them. So he gets to laugh like an idiot, or, you know, but it's this interesting dramatic build into, like, laughing his ass off, if he, you know, depending on what it... I love when he laughs, by the way. He has the most beautiful, like, acted laugh. I don't know how he does that. But yeah, that's what's most interesting to me, is like that he can be understated, but also technically not be the straight man through almost every bit.
Right. There was one episode on the one that took place in Vermont, and he was doing a marathon, or he's staying up all night. Okay. And it was obviously where he was so sleep deprived, he was unbelievably silly. And that, when you see him break character, it's the best. It's the best.
Just like on the first series where there's an episode that takes place during Thanksgiving, and he and the other two guys are stuck there together, and you just get so shit-faced. Oh my God, that is one of my favorite episodes of TV of all time, just because of that. Just watching him break straight man.
Right.
Oh, it's so good. So if you had these albums sitting around the house, I mean, were there other comedy albums sitting around the house as a kid?
I used to get them at the library.
Really? Okay.
And I used to get the same ones over and over and over. And they were pretty much, it was pretty much Bill Cosby and Bob Newhart in the house. Okay. I believe there was also some Ray Conniff singers.
Of
and
course.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then also, when I started going to the library and spreading out a little more, I think that's when I found Steve Martin was probably the next album to come in the house, which probably came in through my sister. And then let me think what else we had around the house. Not too much.
Did she have her own stereo? Because it doesn't sound like that's one of your parents would necessarily want playing out loud. I'm just wondering. Steve Martin could get a little risque, so I'm wondering, or did they not notice?
Maybe we were in the other. We had a den, so we were in the other room.
All right. Okay.
But I can't remember what else. I know there wasn't any Rodney Dangerfield. And maybe that was it. Maybe it was a lot of Cosby and Newhart, which really was same for anybody. Yeah, kids. But yeah, I remember the Steve Martin, who I think now he had out 4 albums, didn't he?
let's see. We have, I think, Wild and Crazy Guy. Let's Get Small.
Comedy Isn't Pretty.
Comedy Isn't Pretty. And then there's the Steve Martin Brothers, which I think is half music, half... I've never heard it. That is the only Steve Martin album I haven't heard. But yes,
wow.
You're right. There's definitely 4.
You know what kind of... I don't know that this was comedy, but the Hudson Brothers album was in our house, and they used to do sketches.
Okay.
So they weren't stand-up, but I remember that. I remember being the Hudson Brothers. Wow, that's a long time ago. But I can't remember any other stand-ups per se.
Yeah. And then after that, were albums a thing for you once you decided comedy was going to be your thing, or was it just seeing it live? Some people don't even buy albums after.
When I really started, it was video. So I would get video,
Sure.
and I believe I used to get them at the library. Again, I was always getting something from the library, but it was more listening to them over and over, and I used to like... I used to videotape a lot. And I feel like there are certain people like Larry Miller who actually, I would say, taught me how to write a joke. Yeah. Because I would actually diagram their jokes to figure out how they did it. Because I'm very, like with Brian, I like the technical writing. I like it to be very technically proficient, and I like the economy of words. I do remember, I'm not a Woody Allen movie fan at all, but his first tape was
so good.
Was so good, unbelievably good, that you wonder why he left the craft.
I know. Well, good money, I guess.
I know, but I can't stand his movies. I know that everyone's going to yell at me, but
that's okay. I like his first 2 movies, and the rest I could take or leave.
Yeah, exactly. And then after that, let's see, where did the albums go after that? I remember a lot of Carlin, and Eddie Murphy came along at that time. He was great. But I think it was always kind of taping that Tonight Show and watching who was on the...
Sure.
Yeah.
Were you physically, did you have a notebook?
Yes.
Yeah, it wasn't just in your head. You were literally writing it down.
I diagrammed some of the jokes, and one of my favorite books is actually called Comedy Writing Secrets by Melvin Hertzler.
Oh, yeah,
and it's very old, and it's great. It's a great book. Oh, I also remember starting to watch Rodney Dangerfield's specials. He would have specials, and it would be Dice, and it would be, everybody would be on it. But I loved that book, and it's very hard to read it because it's almost like a technical book for comedy. And I always noticed when people would ask me, how do you write jokes, the folks that read the whole book stayed in the business, and the ones that couldn't stand it sort of filtered out. But I think I do believe in that. Some people don't, that there's really technically 7 or 9 jokes, and they're just being rewritten, or they're formulas. And I always resort back to that, because I think to be a great writer, what just happens is those formulas stick in your head, and they come out easily.
Sure.
They're shifted, they come through so much information. I once read there was a cognitive scientist named Edward de Bono, and he wrote books on cognitive thinking, and he taught logical thinking to businesses. In other words, we think horizontal, one step, next step, and he taught them to think sideways, sort of. And the first thing he would do is he would diagram a joke, and he would say, this is split thinking. This is thinking in 2 ways at once.
Okay.
So you could say, like, a real simple joke would be, my father was a rabbit hunter, finally shot a rabbit, scared the heck out of the magician. So thinking in 2 ways, that's where your surprise comes from. And it was funny because at that same time I had a friend who was a psychologist, and she gave me the Minnesota personality test or something, and she said, you came up 80% schizophrenic. And I was like, what's that? And she goes, no, it's a little high, but it's where comics should be on the scale.
Interesting.
Because they're splitting thoughts, so they can think in 2s. So I always found that interesting, that those 2 things happened at once. Wow. And I think when you train your mind to see that, one of the exercises in his book was to take an object and come up with 2 or three different things. Like I think his example was he took an ashtray and he was like, look, it's a contact lens for an elephant, or it's a door stopper, and you're training your brain to see around in so many different ways.
Yeah.
That I really think you can exercise your brain into being funnier.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I want to believe that. I have a problem with people saying that you're either born funny or you're born with it or not.
I do too.
Because I've seen people be not funny and then be really great. I mean, people say that about Hannibal Buress. They say that he was not all that great when he started out, and then all of a sudden he did the work and just like boom. I mean, so that right there, I mean, that's a solid example of...
Exactly. You've seen people get it together. And also, we all know comics that have no sense of humor.
Right.
Right. And also, people think Robin Williams just got up and did that. And that's the biggest...
Yeah.
That's the greatest false... He worked hard, and sometimes it wasn't, nothing is that. Like, I know how to improv on stage. Hey, what do you do for a living? This and that. And I do improv with my tarot cards. But that's a skill that's been honed over 25 years.
Yeah.
That's not, and it's funny when you see people when they say, oh, everyone tells me I should be a comic. And I always go, I'll give you 5 minutes on my show. Wait till you see how long 5 minutes are. To say that you're funny by the water cooler is exactly the same as what I do. Not really.
Right. Yeah. I mean, but I also like that you appreciate that if that same dipshit, and I'm just being general, but like if that same person tried and really wanted to do it, they probably could.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate it. Not most comics will admit that not anybody can do it, but anybody who tries for it can at least, get a certain distance along.
Exactly. And if they focus that hard, you know what it is too? It's like when you first start out, you have to try out 10 jokes and one will be funny. And what happens is as your career goes on, that lowers. You got to try out 2 and one will be funny or whatever. So if this person really wants to work hard, somebody may have to write 100 jokes, but that doesn't mean they can't do it.
Yeah.
Plus, people don't realize, like, especially when I go out on dates and stuff, guys will be like, well, see, I can be funny too, or they'll say something funny. And I think people are genuinely funny when they're just being themselves.
Yeah.
When they just, in any situation, or just being honest is normally when they're funny. Yeah. And they don't realize the stage is a different thing. It's a presentation.
Sure, yeah. But then somehow also finding a way to access that same honesty while doing a staged thing. That's, I mean, that's the real fucking challenge. Like, I don't, like, because you're talking about... Because I love talking about the craft of joke writing. I love it. I'm interested in it. It bores the fuck out of some people.
Oh, I know.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know how my audience thinks of that. But, it's my favorite thing. I could sit and talk about structure and why word choice can make the difference between a good joke and a shit joke. And same now in an era where people are so afraid of the quote-unquote PC police, when it's just like, no, we're fucking learning to adapt like we always have.
Right, right.
So, I mean, that shit is fascinating to me.
I think so much like you. I'm actually not worried about the PC police, and I think that I think sometimes political correctness is good. And I know that comics will hate me for that, but I mean, you know what? Then the only example I can think of is when they want to change the name from the Braves. You know what? I don't see that as a big deal. In fact, now, if that's ruining some, I mean, you don't have to be that politically correct. Like, people will pick out one example where one kid in a small town of 12 people got in trouble for wearing a shirt, and they'll think that's the whole country. That's not what's going on.
Right.
But it's funny. I think maybe that's why my best friend Lamont, I call him my best friend in comedy. He may be, because we will sit for hours and discuss. The highest number you want to use is 12 because it has one syllable. Or I'll call him and I go, I did a joke the other day, and the joke was, I just said I thought that I thought the aliens put an implant in me, but it just turns out there was a loose corn chip in my underwear. and so I call him and I'm like, is it corn chip or Frito? And he's like, I like corn chip, but Frito's better. You know what I mean? And we'll talk for a half an hour about stuff like that.
Right.
And that to me is the science. And you can't nail it down. You always have to get out and try it.
Right. What's funny is I think there are a lot of comics who will talk about either themselves or other comics who don't do it the way you're doing it. But I think at the end of the day, I think they do, because I think it's the difference between two different types of minds. Yours is a type of mind who wants to and actively does write stuff down, and that helps you think about it. Where some people might just be better at absorbing it without writing it down, where it does fuck it up for them, right? But I think you're doing the same process.
I do too.
But but where people be like, "Well, I don't think about it that way." No, I think you do. You just don't write it down. You don't.
They try a big story. They'll try out a big story, and then the more times they do the story, you watch, the shorter it gets and the tighter it gets. So they're tightening it up in their mind without the paper.
I mean, lucky you. You don't have to use paper. Great.
Yeah.
You should just be happy with that, but acknowledge that you're doing something.
Yeah. I think everybody likes to think they're funnier than they are.
Sure.
So they're kind of like, no, I just go up there and I say what's happening, and I tell the truth about the world. I'm the truth. Oh, yeah, right.
Well, we're in an entertainment. We're in a business that thrives on the word talent, which means nothing. It's skill. It's like, you're not born with this shit. Like, stop pretending. Yes, Tom Cruise was born looking handsome as fuck, except for his weird teeth that he had when he was a kid. So he got those fixed, and, he had an advantage. But, that doesn't, he is a brilliant actor because he worked. He worked at it,
He worked, he met the right people, and a little bit of luck. Yeah. Everything is work. Even in that is what all my metaphysical stuff believes that we have layers upon layers of. I believe the positive law of attraction, but I think it's not that simple like that movie. I think we have layers upon layers of things that have stopped us through our lives, and we go through them, and some people just don't have them. So it's always just keep working hard, just keep going. Don't think it's going to happen overnight. For some people it does, but stay positive and just know I think anything is possible. Yeah. And the thing is too, it would be interesting for me to see, maybe on it. I keep touching your table because it's just very big and blank canvas for my brain. But I would like to see sort of if you could ever poll, it would be of no interest to you or help to you. But if you could poll your audience of the people who are just there and dig your comedy, and the people who are instantly judging you before they listen to you, you know what I mean? Full listen to you all the way. And I think most of the people who are judging you have the exact same beliefs as you do, just worded in a completely different way. They might be religious, but in a lot of cases, it's the same freaking beliefs as spirituality, And I'm not either religious or spiritual, but you're saying things that I completely relate to. Right. And I'm also open-minded, so I'd be willing to watch comedy by somebody who doesn't agree with me. I don't care. I've seen religious comics. Right. I actually just bought a few albums by some local religious comics. I'm a little afraid because they're from the 60s, so those are going to be crazy. Oh, that's They're going to be nuts. I bought a bunch of local comics that I'd never heard of before at this shop in Kalamazoo for $2 a piece, and I'm like, I cannot wait. This could be really scary. Well, the biggest, I think actually the highest paid or biggest comedian in the world is a comedian, and she's a Christian comedian. Yeah. I can't remember her name. That's interesting. But she does churches and yeah. And I remember actually it was Lori Kilmartin that posted it once, and she posted what? And it was the highest paid comedian is. Wow. So she's sort of doing a spiritual, motivational. Sure. And you hear a lot of them on Sirius XM. Okay. And I remember watching one guy that was really funny, and I think he was on 60 Minutes or something, and he was just cleaning up in the the Christian family comedy thing. But there is a call for that. Sure. People, if they can go see stuff with their kids, the only thing I bet it's very hard, because I've done a lot of I did a show where I was doing the tarot on stage with my friend who's an animal communicator. We do our comedy show, then we do that from the stage. And we were in Pennsylvania, and it was a building that was next to a church. And I get a phone call on the airplane, don't panic, but we have to find a new place. A newspaper article came out, and the parishioners from the church would not allow tarot in. Wow. The minister was like, I had no idea this was going to be the reaction. Oh, goodness. So we had to move. But when I'll do stuff that, and just don't do the tarot, and I'm that clean that I can do Christian or faith stuff. And the thing is, they always worry. You can feel they'll laugh, but they always have that worry, this could go sour at any time. Yeah. She might swear at any time. You know what I mean? No. So those are sometimes more judgmental than anything. God, that's harsh. But when they trust you, it's very funny because I was talking to someone, because most of my stuff is clean, or you could say PG-13. If you're coming to see my show, it's PG-13, with a couple of swear words. And when I do corporate, of course, it's G or PG. I don't even know what the line is now, because I'll be prepared to go crystal clean, and then the act in front of me filthy, and they'll be laughing, and
so
no
funny.
one cares,
Yeah.
and you're like, I'm like, okay, I must be an old lady in this business because I'm not following that. But it is funny how people will say, thank you for being clean, but they never really say that in a club. They never.
Yeah.
If you're doing a corporate or something where we were worried about it and there's kids around, but people never really. Somebody was saying they never really thank you for that. Thank you for being the clean one.
Yeah. That's funny. And somebody like Bob Newhart never has to deal with it because I guess it's just assumed. Although, again, I think it's really funny. Like, we had his son on the podcast to talk about...
Oh, wow.
Yeah, his favorite comic was Richard Pryor.
Ah.
And I love that was what appealed to him. He just didn't do it because he knew it paid, and he knew he could do what he did well.
Right.
But there is some stuff that, like, Rob Newhart's favorite bit of his dad's was this bit that I hadn't heard before, where it's all about a guy who's about to jump off a ledge, and it's dark as shit.
Wow.
And it's great. And it is great. But it's one of those things where I think in the right room, because Bob Newhart's the one doing it,
right.
it would play. They'd give him a pass because it's Bob Newhart.
Right.
Especially now.
Can we find that on the internet?
Yeah, it is. It's on YouTube. I'll have to find it.
Too? In those days, I really think people were not uptight about anything.
Sure.
So they did use slang, and they did use, a woman driver, whatever. That was probably a joke. In the 70s, I'm Rontowski. The Polish jokes were, we didn't care at all. And I think there were Italian jokes at that time, and there's Jewish jokes, and not that, I understand that we outgrew that with racism.
Sure.
Because racism left me kind of, but it was a much lighter thing, so talking about somebody jumping off a ledge probably, wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah, and it's a great bit. It's a solid bit. It's really, really, really good.
Does his son do stand-up?
No.
Okay.
He's a director, but he did, the reason I had him on the show is because it was a very rare occasion where he's in have you ever seen the movie, what's it called? Heart and Souls, stars Robert Downey Jr.?
I know of it.
Let's say 95.
It would be my kind of movie,
Something.
right? Somebody passed away?
It is. It's about this kid who is, his guardian angels are a bunch of people who died on in a bus wreck in San Francisco, and his thing is to help them do their final thing. Like one guy needs to perform on stage, one lady needs to reunite her kid, and something like that. And it opens, the kid is running through the Purple Onion, or the Hungry Eye. I think it's Purple Onion in San Francisco, and he runs past Bob Newhart on stage. Well, it's Rob Newhart playing his dad.
Oh, that's funny.
And I was like, it's never happened before. Nobody's ever done that, at least in terms of stand-up. So I was like, this would be cool. And he talked about it. It was fun, but mostly it was great listening to him talk about his dad's love of Richard Pryor.
Oh, wow.
Turns out he went to school with Kelly Carlin, which I didn't. I want to have them both on the show at the same time.
Oh,
that
yeah.
would be a blast.
Yeah.
Because they were both fans of one another's dad's works and stuff.
That's funny.
Okay, so this album, not that you need to recommend it to anybody, but if you're going to recommend why to listen to The Button Down Mind, what's a good, solid reason?
Because it's still, to this day, on the cutting edge.
Yeah.
It's still something that nobody else has done, or at least as well, or with that kind of consistency. And it's brilliant.
I agree. That's the simplest answer anybody's ever given on the show.
Yeah.
This,
it really is like he made that one thing his niche.
yeah.
And that's the hardest thing, to stick with one thing without making people sick of it.
Yeah, without it feeling like a gimmick, and somehow it doesn't.
Yeah.
I honestly, this is something I've talked about before too. I would give a lot of credit to his acting. I think he's a brilliant actor, and I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
Not all stand-ups are necessarily good actors. They might be. I'm a great storyteller. That's my thing. He's a great actor.
And the, and I do this on stage, but really the pauses that he takes are so, people don't understand how much confidence are in those pauses.
Yeah.
To just wait and then and stutter,
Because I think, if I remember correctly, he does have a natural stammer, but it's not that.
Right.
He knows how to use it for the stage.
That's perfect.
And that's so good. I don't know when this is coming out, so I apologize.
That's
it could
okay.
be several weeks. But, is there anything coming up? And where should people find you?
People can always find me at KarenRontowski.com or Twitter at Rontowski. And, through my website, it has all kinds of paranormal stuff. It has tarot readings, and hopefully I'll start having the episodes of Paranormal Karen up.
Awesome.
So,
That's so good. Well, thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, and psychic stand-up is once a month at Flappers.
At Flappers. Oh, right down the street from me.
Puts
That's
everything
perfect.
together.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing this.
Thank you for coming to my house.
Thank you guys for listening. And actually, I don't know, like I said, I don't know when the fuck this is coming out, but watch my movie at lookingforwardmovie.com. It's coming out one blog at a time throughout the year, and then we'll cut it into a full movie next year. We're at like 7 hours as of the recording of 7 hours of blogs. And then my first feature-length documentary comes out December 6th. All that information will be at stolendress.com. Thank you guys for listening. And as always, have a good thing. Comedy on Vinyl is a production of Stolen Dress Entertainment. It is produced by Mike Warden and is hosted and edited by Jason Klamm. Our theme song was composed and performed by Richard Levinson. Please visit stolendress.com to listen to our other podcasts, read our blogs, read our tweets, watch our videos, and read our books. Please subscribe on iTunes, and if you like us, give us a 5-star rating and a nice review. You can find us on facebook.com/comedyonvinyl, Twitter @comedyonvinyl, and find everything else at comedyonvinyl.com. A major portion of Comedy on Vinyl has been underwritten by Stand Up Records. Please visit standuprecords.com for all your comedy needs and tune into the new Stand Up channel available on the Roku, where you can also find select episodes of this podcast.